we took a little hiatus last week. We all went to Tahiti, and had a good time, and we decided not to do the webinar. Okay. But anyway, so this is Dr. Mike Gooing, Gooing Chiropractic Clinic. For those of you who don't know me, I've been in practice since 1982. I graduated in 82, started in practice in 83. I was chosen as one of the top 27 curative chiropractors in the United States by Self Magazine. I was trained by Dr. Bob Marshall, and I think I'm one of the only licensed healthcare practitioner that is also a platinum certified QI practitioner by Dr. Bob Marshall. And so tonight we're going to continue talking along the lines of sleep and insomnia. And tonight we're talking about, what was the title for tonight?
Cell phone depolarization.
We're talking about cell phone depolarization. We're talking about depolarization, and how cell phones can affect your body's electrical system. Okay, and so let's take a look here. So we've got some handouts here. And so, I have a handout here on depolarization. And so depolarization is a process of your body, well, depolarized, your body is supposed to have a negative polarity. And in Chinese medicine, we say we have four polarities, four extremities, your head, you have four polarities. And so what happens in Chinese medicine is if you have all four polarities that are depolarized, then that's what we call dead man walking syndrome. That person is dying. Okay? And so depolarization is when something depolarizes your body and flips you from a negative electrical field to a positive electrical field, and it stays like that for a sustained period of time. Okay? So that's what we're talking about when we talk about depolarization. Now, what's the result of depolarization? Your body changes chemically, and it starts producing acid instead of oxygen. Your body goes into a fermentation cycle as a survival mechanism. You start to have inflammation, and inflammation is a silent killer. It causes tissue damage. It does not cause pain, it causes tissue damage. And remember, you're only aware of about 12% of your body consciously. And so you have this inflammation and this damage going on, for years before you're even consciously aware of it. And when you start to have pain, that's when you've got damage to 50% of the area already. We talk about neurodegenerative disease. Usually you have to have neurodegenerative disease for 20 to 30 years before you start to have symptoms, and that usually means that you've got at least 50% damage. So that's why we talk about taking the pH, because the pH, when you look at it, if you're 6.0 below, your body is in a chronic state of inflammation. Dr. Marshall calls that dead man walking syndrome. And so when your pH is crashed, your immune system is going to be crashed, your body's acid, your body's an open door to the environment, you're susceptible to chronic infection, your immune system is suppressed. One of the things that happens when your body is depolarized, and typically it's depolarized by man-made artificial electrical fields, okay, is that your autoimmune system will be suppressed. And so your immune system functions in two poles, growth and repair and autoimmune, okay? And it's supposed to go back and forth naturally from growth and repair when you're sleeping, autoimmune during the day when you're running for the lion and fighting the battle, growth and repair. But what will happen, okay, is when you have a man-made artificial electrical field trauma, it will depolarize you, and it will suppress your growth and repair, and it will suppress your autoimmune, and so now you're an open door to the environment. And I'm going to remind myself again this week to slow down and give you an opportunity to take notes while we're going along. So you can go ahead and take a moment to take a note right now, and I'm going to share a patient that came into the office. and he was a young guy, about 28 years old, and he was a real stud of a kid. And when he walked into the office, he was like this. He was all rigid, like this. And he couldn't turn, and he couldn't move his jaw, and he couldn't move his eyes, and he kind of talked like this, and he had to do everything like this to look at you, okay? And you know, the parents was there, the whole family was there when they came in, and they told me that they had spent over $1 million in testing, and nobody could figure out what's wrong with him. And I said to them, I said, please don't get angry at me or be surprised if I come up with a diagnosis relatively quickly. And I explained to them what I was going to do, and I explained that I was going to look at the teeth, and I started questioning him, and I discovered that he was a surfer, and I'd seen cases like this before, especially with surfers, and I asked him, so have you ever been surfing down by San Onofre? And they said, well, yeah, he was down surfing in San Onofre a couple of weeks just before he got sick like this. And I said to them, well, did you ever think about all the radiation, contamination down in San Onofre? I mean, they did close that place, okay? And so, and they really didn't think about that. They really hadn't considered it. And so what had happened is he'd been radiated, okay? He'd suffered radiation poisoning. And when you get radiation poisoning, you don't die from the radiation, you die from pneumonia. Okay? And so his symptoms were symptoms of radiation poisoning. Okay? And they weren't real happy with that diagnosis. Okay? But that was the diagnosis, and that was the circumstance that led up to the development of his condition. Okay? And so just a side note for you on how vulnerable your immune system, your autoimmune system is to man-made artificial electrical field traumas, environmental electrical field traumas, X-ray, radiation, MRI, CT scans, cell phones. Okay? And so then what happens, okay, is, and now we're going to talk about cell phones tonight, and we're going to talk how cell phones can depolarize your body. And so what happens, okay, is, and I had a patient, ask me, well, how does your cell phone get depolarized, and how does your cell phone depolarize you? And I explained it to her, and she had a hard time with it. And I said, something, I'm going to get the science together for you so I can show you the science behind it. And I had a little trouble with it, and so I called an electrician, and I know he says, oh, that's what we call induction. And so we have this handout here, and it's called induction. And as a matter of fact, I called Dr. Marshall and asked him if he had any handouts, and they didn't. And after this, I called them and I told them where to get this handout. And all you need to go is to a dictionary on the website where they talk about induction, and they talk about the three different types of induction, and they talk about how an electrical field that is created outside your body and how it can disrupt your body's electrical field and depolarize you, and how an electrical field can also disrupt an inanimate object like your cell phone, and how it can disrupt you also. And so, this is that handout, Daryl, that they can look at, and it explains, how your cell phone can become depolarized and how it can then depolarize you. And this is a phenomenon that's been going on for quite some time, and but it's really gotten worse within the last 8 weeks. About 8 weeks ago, we started seeing people come in. And I really didn't recognize it initially, but it was kind of like an environmental phenomenon. And the patients were coming in with cell phones. I mean, they've got the big new computer cell phones, and they must have amped up the power. But the cell phones were starting to eliminate or to generate an electrical field or man-made artificial electrical field similar to that of an X-ray. And it was depolarizing not just your physical body, but all of the teeth. And so, and it was also creating an electrical field of about 6 to 8 feet, okay? And so it may not have been your cell phone, it may have been somebody else's cell phone, but we had patients coming to the office, and when I was examining them, their cell phones were depolarizing me in the office. And I'd have to have the staff clear me, in between patients, and I actually had to up my personal protection. I had to add more bracelets. Now I had to wear 2 on my wrists and 2 on both ankles in order to protect my body from patients' cell phones that were coming in, that were depolarized. Okay, and so that's an environmental phenomenon we're seeing right now. And as a matter of fact, we just had another new patient today, and about 8 weeks ago, he became violently ill, and then all of a sudden he started having problems sleeping, insomnia. He'd never had a problem sleeping before, and 1 + 1 is equal to 2. And when we examined him, his body was completely depolarized. He couldn't even hold his legs up. Couldn't even hold a muscle test. And so his body had completely gone into a positive polarity. It was producing acid. It wasn't producing oxygen, which leads to inflammation and leads to DNA damage. And so we're going to slow down right there, so you can make a couple of notes again and prepare any questions that you may have. Anything you want to add to that, Daryl, or anything that you'd like to mention?
No, not right now.
Mm-hmm.
Let me pull up that handout real quick though.
Okay. So we've got the depolarization handout. We've got the induction handout. This is the science. This is like gravity. Okay. And one of the things that I've been talking about, when we talk about the science, nobody argues with you about gravity. Walk up to the building, you step off, you're going to go down. Well, electrical pollution in our society now is kind of like gravity. There's no disputing it. There's no debating it. All the science is out there. All the literature is out there. You can't ignore it anymore. Man-made artificial electrical fields are like tobacco, and they're debating the effects of it. It's like the NFL saying that you don't get brain trauma from concussions when you're hitting people. It's only common sense, that those things could happen, and it's just the way it is right now. And so we just have to acknowledge that this is a hazard of our society, and we have to take appropriate action to protect ourselves. Just like we protect ourselves from tobacco, and we have no smoking areas, and they've outlawed, tobacco smoking in public areas because they know what the health risks are of secondhand smoke. So anyway, that's why you see places now where you go where they'll actually tell you can't have your cell phone on. And so we're going to kind of get into it now, but that's that new cell phone technology that is actually depolarizing your body and depolarizing your teeth. And so one of the things that happens, okay, when your body is traumatized by an electrical field, that electrical field has to have a greater electrical force than the force of your body to depolarize you. And it talks about that here with induction. Well, what will happen is that trauma will depolarize your general electrical field, because your body is a global electrical field, and then that biofield is connected to you on a DNA level. And so in physics, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction and adaptation. And so it's going to change you on a DNA level, because we know your DNA is dynamic, and that's just the science we have right now. That's not disputable. And then it's going to change you on an organ meridian level. That's kind of like the domino effect. That's how your body compensates and adapts. And then it's going to change your physical body. And so over 100 different joints your body can change spontaneously when your body is depolarized. And then we mentioned, okay, so this is this one here, Gerald. Then your body, okay, when you're depolarized, that man-made artificial electrical field trauma, can depolarize your immune system, and it can also depolarize your teeth. Okay? And the thing that's interesting about this is you can depolarize your electrical field and you can depolarize the teeth on an individual level. Okay? And what that means is here you are, you've got 32 different teeth. Okay? And each tooth is related to all the different organs and nerves in your body. So every nerve, every organ meridian in your body runs through your teeth. And so you can have individualized teeth become depolarized in association with your depolarized body. And then all the organ meridians associated will then be depolarized. Okay? And so that will suppress and keep your immune system down no matter what you do. And so many times what happens is you'll come in and we'll tell you you're depolarized, and we use the laser to reverse that depolarization. We use the laser to repolarize you. But for example, when these patients started coming in recently with the cell phones that had depolarized them and depolarized all their teeth, just repolarizing the biofield wasn't enough. We then had to go in and we had to check every tooth to see if each tooth had been depolarized on an individual level, because clearing the biofield did not clear all of the individual teeth that may have been depolarized. Okay? And so one of the things that will happen is when the patients come in, their body will be depolarized, but then their teeth will also be depolarized. And so we'll have to repolarize their biofield, and then we'll have to specifically repolarize each tooth that may be depolarized in order to restore their immune system, and stop the acid reaction that's happening. And so, that's one of the more complicated situations that we're seeing. And fortunately, right now, with the technology that we have that's changed, just in the last 6 months, we have new lasers that are 50 times stronger than the lasers we used to have. And now we can actually diagnose that on a consistent basis, and we can make those kinds of corrections now. It's like we always had the theory, but we didn't have the technology to do anything about it. Dr. Marshall always said, when you get a chronic infection of your teeth, that's the one infection your body cannot compensate and adapt for. Well, you can't compensate and adapt for because the specific tooth is depolarized. And if it's depolarized, it has to be repolarized, with a man-made artificial electrical field to get you back into a negative state and a normal, healthy polarity, so that your body can start producing oxygen and regenerate on a DNA level and stop the production of inflammation and tissue damage. So we'll just kind of slow down a little bit right there. Anything you want to add there, Daryl?
No, not
Anything
yet.
that you want me to discuss about that?
No, because I think you're gonna discuss it in the future.
Okay.
Or in a little bit.
All right. And so,
Do you want me to keep this induction sheet up?
yeah, that's
still?
good. And so remember, your pineal gland, is highly susceptible to man-made artificial electrical field traumas. And so disruption or sleep pattern is going to be the first symptom, of an event you've been exposed to that's depolarized you, on an electrical level. Okay. And also remember this, okay? These depolarizing events. So when you have these depolarizing traumas, they're cumulative. Okay? So, the eyes, the teeth, the parathyroid, the thyroid, the brain, the pineal gland are highly susceptible to man-made artificial electrical field traumas. And so vaccinations are a man-made artificial electrical field. X-rays, dental X-rays, cell phone towers. And so your body may not have symptoms initially, but you'll have an accumulation of these traumas, and eventually what happens is your body can't compensate and adapt anymore. Your adaptive mechanism crashes, and you have symptoms. And some people will say, well, why doesn't anybody else have the same problems I do? Why doesn't everybody else get affected the way I do? Well, we all have a different genetic makeup. We all have a different experience in life. We all have different circumstances. We all have different exposures. Okay? And so that cumulative exposure, your genetic makeup, those are all contributing factors to how your body adapts and compensates and stays out of a symptomatic state or crashes and goes into a symptomatic state. Okay? And so remember, when you have symptoms and you've gone into a hot phase, your adaptive mechanism has crashed. Okay? You know, when somebody comes down and gets ill and they say, well, everybody at the office has got it. You know, my response is, no, that isn't why you got it. You got it because your immune system was suppressed. Okay? And everybody at the office's immune system is probably suppressed. Okay? I'm not willing to accept that I'm going to get sick just because everybody else gets sick. You know, most people will get sick and I won't get sick because I maintain the integrity of my immune system. And remember, epigenetics, the science of epigenetics, is how your environment can trigger you on a DNA level. And so remember, these depolarizing events always change you on a DNA level. Remember, head traumas are the most important traumas of all because every organ within in your body is mapped out on your head and in your teeth. Okay? That's why it's very important to pay attention to your teeth. And avoid x-rays unless absolutely necessary. It's important to go to somebody who has the ability to test your teeth beyond symptoms and let you know what's going on with your teeth. We had a patient come in. Dr. Marshall tells a story similar to this, but we had a patient come in and I said, you got a problem with that tooth, that you're going to have fixed. And so she went to her dentist, and the dentist said, there's nothing wrong with that tooth. And what does a chiropractor know about teeth? And so she came back and she said, the dentist said everything's okay. And one of the other things you have to realize is when you have a problem with your tooth, when you have an infection in your tooth, it never shows up visually until you have at least 50% tissue damage or loss of bone tissue in order for it to show up on the x-ray. And if you have a crown and you have an infection that's developed under the crown because it's leaking, it won't show up on x-ray because you need a CT scan to go through the crown. The x-ray will not go through the crown. So, I eventually told that tooth is a problem. And she went back to her dentist, and the dentist wouldn't do anything about it. And then eventually she went to the dentist. She said, something? I know. No, I just want you to open it up. And she opened it up, and the tooth was completely black underneath the crown. She had a severe chronic infection in the tooth. And her dentist's jaw just dropped, because, she got caught with her pants down, so to speak. And so really important, we just don't realize how important our teeth are to our well-being. And it's really important to have somebody you can go to that can test your teeth beyond symptoms. Okay? And that's one thing that's great about a QI practitioner. We're trained how to test your teeth beyond symptoms. Dr. Marshall always says, whenever you have a chronic health problem that won't respond, you always look at the teeth. Okay? Anytime somebody comes with a serious problem that nobody can figure out, I always forewarn them, don't be surprised if I come up with a diagnosis relatively quick, because I know I'm going to go to the teeth, and I know I'm going to find out what's going on when I look at the teeth, because every nerve in your body goes through your teeth. And if I figure out which tooth is depolarized, then I know which organ meridians are depolarized, and I know what's going on with your nervous system and your immune system. So that's why that's so important. We really downplay the importance of our teeth, on an organ meridian level. And again, 90% of the women that are diagnosed with breast cancer have an undiagnosed chronic infection in their teeth. Same thing with men with their prostate. First symptom of prostate cancer is waking up at night to go to the bathroom, and they call it benign hypertrophy, but that means you have a chronic infection in your teeth that's reflexing your bladder and your prostate, and that's what's waking you up at night to go to the bathroom. And your doctor will tell you that just happens with old age or older age and with men, and that's normal. Well, it's not. Okay, that's the first step down the road towards prostate cancer. Let's take a look. Surgeries, are a real problem because they cause scars. And so if you think about it, you go to the dentist and they put that big horse needle in there, and then they're doing surgery on these teeth with every nerve of your body that goes through there. And so when you have dental work done, that's like a major surgery. They're doing surgery on a tooth, that is a nerve root, for multiple organ systems in your body. So working on that one tooth can have a domino effect on multiple organs in your system and can depolarize you and cause scars that can reflex to other areas of your body and cause you health problems that you wouldn't even think were associated with your teeth. I remember when my Achilles ruptured, I tell Dr. Marshall, I just had this fluke injury. He says, Michael, there are no fluke injuries. And he was right. My Achilles was associated, with a surgery that I'd had in one of my teeth. Okay, so, it's something to pay attention to. Puncture wounds, think about those big needles that they put in your teeth. Next time I have to have dental work done or they want to do surgery on my mouth, I'm going to use gas. I'm not going to let them use, those big old needles anymore. And heavy metals, aluminum, remember? When they give you vaccinations, they usually use aluminum as a preservative, and those man-made artificial metals put into your body cause tissue necrosis, and they cause scarring and blockages. Okay, dental surgery, talked about that. Dental analgesics, which are similar to nicotine, okay, can cause all kinds of problems with your lungs. Okay, remember MRIs are like 500 X-rays. CT scans are like 1,000 X-rays. Watch out for dental X-rays, especially when they do the panoramic X-ray. Watch out for scatter radiation when you go to the dental office and when you go to the hospitals, because only 1% of X-ray actually shows up in the film. 99% is scatter. So when you're at the doctor's office or the dental office and they're taking X-rays in the room next to you, they don't use shielding, right? And so you've got all that scatter radiation bouncing around, and so you can get radiated just going to the dental office, even if you don't have X-rays. We had a patient come in today. She had a dental X-ray exposure, and she didn't even have X-rays. They were X-raying somebody in the chair next to her. Airports, they're X-raying, all the bags at the airports. So you got to watch out for that. Remember, when you go to the airport, I opt out. Don't let them X-ray you. You do not have to let them X-ray you. You can opt out. It's your personal right, and they have to honor that. I have another patient, and he was following my recommendation. He shared this with me just last week, and he said, he told him, I don't want any X-rays. I want to opt out. And the attendant looked at him, and he leaned over. He says, I don't let them X-ray me either. Right. But that was what the attendant there said, who's responsible for screening everybody and making sure everybody gets X-rays. Okay? Because they know. Okay, let's take a look here. And then, this is Dr. Jerry Tennant, MD. Healing is voltage. He says, and one must consider that each organ has its own battery pack, a stack of muscle batteries known as acupuncture meridians. Remember, those meridians all pass through the teeth. He said the reversal of polarity occurs in a battery in a circuit and the accompanying loss of oxygen with low voltage. So, when you're depolarized, you have a loss of voltage. You have a lower voltage. That's what causes your body to go into a fermentation cycle as an adaptive mechanism, because now you're not producing oxygen, you're producing acid. Okay? And remember, foreign organisms and cancer cells love an acid environment. Okay? And so that's why we use the laser, because the laser has a high voltage. The new lasers we have, have a lot more voltage than the blue ones used to have. They're 50 times stronger. And that's why we can use the laser to do repolarization techniques and reverse the effects of depolarizing man-made artificial electrical field traumas, and restore, the normal function of the immune system and the autoimmune system. So, questions?
All right. First question is, what does the laser do to the phones?
Well, the laser. Give you that handout?
Which one, the induction one?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I gave it back to you.
You did?
Yeah. I believe so.
Okay, so here is your cell phone, okay? And let's say that this is a cell phone tower, okay? And it creates an electrical field, that induces, okay, an electrical field on your cell phone, and depolarizes your cell phone, okay, turning it into an electrical generator of man-made artificial electrical fields, okay? Well, then what we do is we take the laser, okay, and we do reverse induction. So it's induced into a positive field. The laser induces it into a negative field. We're reversing the induction process with the laser. That's what we're doing.
What's the difference between depolarized and encoded?
So, depolarization, okay, is the event, okay. The reaction, okay, is encoded. The event is encoded, encrypted, written, recorded in your DNA, causing, a change in your DNA, which causes a change in your chemistry, your organ meridians, and your physical body. Over 100 different joints your body change. It causes an adaptive mechanism reaction. So you get depolarized, and then that event gets encoded or written into on a DNA level.
All right. What is the reason for master resets, and how does that help repolarize the phone?
Well, what'll happen, and I really don't know what happens or how that works. You'd have to call your cell phone company. But we had a patient come in, and their cell phone was depolarized, and we tried to repolarize it with the laser. We couldn't, and we told them to take it back to their cell phone company and exchange it. Well, the story goes, he went back to them and they said, "Oh, we'll just do a master reset on it." And then you take it back to your doctor and let him check it. So they did a master reset on it, and he brought it back and it was clear. Okay? So I don't know what the master reset is. I don't know what it does. But every time I've sent somebody down or had them do a master reset, I think it's like pushing a reset button, on a rheostat. But it resets it, okay, and it repolarizes. Okay? And so that's what a master reset is. When you do it yourself or you take it to your cell phone company, the tech, and they do a master reset on it. That's the best I can give you. I haven't had time to go down and ask them, what's entailed with it.
All right. Well, that kind of goes into the next question. Someone asks if you've spoken to anyone in the phone industry and asked about like the master reset, and if you talked to anyone about it.
I haven't had a chance to.
Okay. Next question: can the handheld metal detectors have the same effect as X-rays?
Handheld.
The ones they hold and they scan.
I don't know. Nobody's ever asked me that question.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I imagine if you pointed it at somebody, it could have an effect on them.
Okay. How can a
Will you
phone
answer that, Danielle? What's that?
how can a phone itself get blown out?
Well, again, that's this process called induction. Okay, and so it talks about electromagnetic and magnetic induction.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about electrostatic induction, and it talks about so electrostatic induction is the production of an electrical charge on an uncharged metallic body as a result of a charged body being brought near or within touching distance of it. Okay, so it talks about how it affects induction affects a conductor, and or a man-made inanimate object. Okay?
All right. Are there any supplements you can take to protect your pineal gland from getting depolarized?
No.
You want to elaborate, or like
Well,
why is there nothing you could take? And
well, that's like asking, is there a supplement that you can take that will protect me from radiation poisoning, so I can go surfing down at San Onofre? It's no.
mm-hmm.
Okay. Can I take a supplement so that I can go to this Subway sandwich place that I like to go to that's got a cell phone tower on the top of it, that always blows me out? No. Okay? Even I wear my protection? No. Okay? So we're not talking about a chemical event, we're talking about an electrical event. Okay? It's not a chemical exposure, it's an electrical exposure.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, you can protect yourself from parasites. For example, we have a patient that just went out of town, and I told her in your particular case, she asked what she should take because you're limited in what you can take when you fly. I said you should take the HCl because HCl is an anti-infective, and instead of taking it after the meal, I would take it before the meal, while you're on your trip as a preventive measure because the HCl is an anti-infective and it will kill anything in your food, when you eat it before it gets in your system. So it's, you're talking chemistry versus electricity.
Okay. If a cell phone gets blown out with protection on, does that mean the protection gets depolarized as well?
The protection never gets depolarized. Okay, that's one phenomena about the depolarization. The protection of the protection never gets depolarized. It's permanently infused with negative ions. What it means is you've been exposed to an electrical field that was greater than the protection could provide. It's like what I tell people is it's like wearing a bulletproof vest. No, no matter how good your bulletproof vest is, you can still get shot. Okay? And the bigger your vest, the bigger the gun they're going to get. Right? And so, we can only, there's a limit to how much we can protect ourselves. We can't have 100% protection because they're just, like for example, within the office, within a 5 mile radius of the office, there are over 900 cell phone towers.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next question is, how do you know that cell phones are the only problem, and you don't check other things like laptops in the office?
Well, we do check laptops. We do check iPads. Okay, but the predominant one is the cell phone. When we see somebody come in and their cell phone is depolarized, we'll talk, or they start coming in and they're depolarized repeatedly. That's why we have the home biofield correction program, and we teach you how to inspect all of your electrical devices and including your home or car. We had somebody the other day, we actually had to clear their car. They had an electrical car that was depolarized. We had another patient, his GPS unit was depolarized. We had to go out and clear his car, and we had to put protection on his GPS unit in his car. I think you remember who that was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You helped me do it, didn't you?
Maybe. Can't remember.
Was that Renzo?
Could have
Well, I
been.
know we had a couple of people we had to do that with.
Yeah. The next question is, since I bought protection for my phone, it my phone has been testing for depolarization every time that I've come in, so what's the point of having protection?
Well, I don't know who that is, okay? And so if your phone has been depolarizing every time you come in, you need more protection, okay? And you're being exposed, to something that's toxic to your body. We had a patient that was working at a nuclear power plant, and it wasn't a nuclear power plant, it was a nuclear weapons plant, okay? And so he'd go up there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and he'd come down Mondays, and I had to put him back together every Monday. He got nuked every time he went up there. No matter how much protection we gave him, he got nuked every time he went up there. And eventually he discontinued that job because he realized how hazardous it was to his health.
That was the last question.
Okay, good. So remember, you know, if you have a cell phone, if you have a laptop, if you have any electric devices you want us to check for you, feel free to bring them in. We'll check you for them, no charge. If you'd like to get examined, take advantage of the Friend Help Your Friend coupon. Take advantage of the Talk to the Doctor program. Email me. Remember, you always get the best results if you email me your symptoms and your pH readings 48 hours in advance of your appointments with a phone number. That way I can call you and talk to you, get a heads up what's going on, come up with a game plan before you come into the office. That way I'm waiting for you instead of you waiting for me. Maybe you've had a change and I don't know about it, and we can create extra time for that. You know, um, I guess it was last week on one day. It was like I don't know what happened, but it was like everybody came in, and they were just a wreck. I had about 6 or 7 patients in the morning come in. They were all scheduled for an adjustment only, and they didn't call. The one didn't call and tell us that she'd been in a car accident. The other one didn't call and tell us she'd had the flu. The other one didn't tell her that she was having disc problems. The other one didn't tell us that she was having nausea and dizziness. They just called in for an adjustment and showed up for an adjustment. And then they had all these critical conditions, and all of them were depolarized, and so it just created chaos in the office because, we had them scheduled for an adjustment. So, really important, to communicate with us before your visits. Give us a heads up so we can, make sure we create the time that you're going to need when you come to the office. And so just, don't hesitate to email me. Don't hesitate to call me at the office or at home, because it's really to your benefit, because we want to make sure that you get what you need, because we know we know you really make sacrifices to be here. We know how valuable your time is. We know how difficult it is to get here with traffic. And so we really want to honor you and your time and make sure you get what you really need when you are here. We don't want to, okay, well, you're going to have to come back for another appointment. It's all yours, Daryl.
Do you have a topic for next week yet?
I had one and then I forgot what it was.
Okay.
I was going to tell you what it was and I got busy.
Okay.
What was it going to be? Next week. Next week, we're going to do a demonstration on how we repolarize the teeth.
Okay.
We're actually gonna pull out Floyd, and we're gonna use the laser and show how we repolarize the teeth, and repolarize the reflex patterns. Okay.
Okay.
So we're gonna go over dental organ meridian repolarization.
All right. On the screen right there, if you have any questions about the webinar, you send them to guingchiropracticclinic@gmail.com. And if you want to use the Talk to the Doctor program, you email michaelguing@cox.net. So that second email right there on the screen, that's the one you're going to email. Make sure to leave your time of availability and a phone number that he can reach you at. That way he can get to you as soon as he gets home from the office. And the first email you can send your other questions to. It doesn't have to be just about the webinar. We check those daily. So if you have any other questions, send that there. I think that's it from me. Anything else from you?
That's it.
All right, see you guys next
And just make sure you post that to Doreen ASAP.
Okay. All right, see you guys next week.